Hello, I'm here today to talk to you about Find a Way or Make One. Our president, Dr. Leanne Nutt, and Dr. Jackie Thomas have been working with us on this project for quite a while throughout the summer. They are very passionate about student success, and so they came to Phi Theta Kappa to help them with this because they've noticed a trend that a lot of people are starting college, but they're not finishing it. And they were trying to figure out, well, why is this and how can we help them? And they came up with the conclusion that, well, it's barriers. People have all kinds of issues and reasons that happen through life that make people not finish things that they begin. And they are really wanting people to finish their goals and help people to succeed. And so to do that, they decided to come to us, our chapter of Phi Theta Kappa, because they knew that we also are dedicated to student success. And one of the best ways they thought was, well, let's see, how did they overcome their barriers? And so we decided that what we would do is we would share with you some of the things that have held us back. For me, one of my issues was that I came from a family that are highly educated and very, not just have high degrees, but they also are honor students. Many of them have doctorate degrees with 4.0 GPAs. That's everybody in my family, or aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody. And then there's me. I have problems reading. I'm the only one in my family that has these kind of issues. And when I was growing up, my mother actually thought that they came up with a new grading system in school because surely nobody makes a 12 on a test. Well, except for me, or on the report card. But by the time I was in halfway through high school, they finally discovered that I had dyslexia. And that was great that I now knew that there was a real reason why I had struggled so much. The problem was, back then, they didn't know what to do to help students with dyslexia. So I was no stranger to poor grades. After I finally graduated from high school, and it was a big challenge, but once I finally did, I had all kinds of reasons that I gave myself for not going to school. First I said, well, I just don't know what I want to do yet. And then I got married young and had children right away, and I said, well, I just want to spend time with my family and so forth, and that's where I wanted to put my goals. But in the back of my mind, I knew that the real reason that I wasn't going to school was because I didn't know if I could do it. And I certainly was intimidated by these high grades that my own family had made, and I knew that from my past track record that I could never live up to that kind of a standard. And so I had placed on myself these high standards that I just didn't think I could live up to. And so what I did, I finally found myself in a job that I didn't like, and I knew I had to make a change. But the only way that I was going to be able to make that change was to get an education, and I knew that. Eventually, I ended up getting laid off from work. I had worked in the mortgage industry, and so when the housing industry went down a few years ago, my whole department closed. And it turned out to be a blessing because I decided at that point I was finally going to go ahead and do this. And I have a very supportive husband, and he agreed that this was a really good time to try it. And it was it was really hard because I had been out of school for so long, in addition to my other issues. And I had to do all these remedial classes, and it really took the wind out of my sail, so to speak. But I took it. When I did my first semester, I totally made just a horrible mistake. I went to my family, who are all these really high academic achievers, and said, so how many hours did you take? And I used their answers to set what I'm going to do for myself. And so I found myself my first semester of college, and I took 17 hours my first semester. And with a reading disability. Yeah, that was bad. I found myself, the way I had to make to be successful was I was up all night long, and I mean many nights a week, and I would finish my homework with just enough time to get dressed and go to school. And that is not a way to sit through a lecture. What ended up happening for me was my professors ended up sounding more like Charlie Brown's teacher, you know. All you hear is wah, 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 wah. It was bad. And I realized right away that I was going to have to learn how to manage my time better. But along with the mistakes, I did some things that were right. One of those things was I made some really good friends that were like-minded, meaning they were just as determined to succeed and complete school as I was. One of them suggested that I go and check out TRIO. And TRIO is a federally funded program for at-need students. And when I went there, I got my application, and the manager there asked me, have you been to Disability Services yet? I said, what's that? She's, aha, let me walk you down there and help you get an appointment. So she walked me down there and helped me schedule my first appointment. And Disability Services, I found, was just as easy to work with as TRIO was. They just walked me through step by step the things that I needed to do and how to get my testing, and they were able to get my disabilities documented. And from there, they were able to get me a scribe, which is someone who can go in and take notes for you, and the use of a voice recorder. And these were two tools that I used that have really helped me to overcome some of my challenges that I have. I put a lot of hard work into it, but along with these tools. But this Lone Star College has a lot of tools in place for student success. And I encourage you to, if you have something that you need, look into finding a tool that will help you. We have tutoring centers. We have, the disability services. Just check out the tools that you have. We have counselors. Do it whatever it takes to overcome your barriers that you have. And that's my story of how I overcame some of my challenges and my barriers, and how I found a way or made one. Now I would like to introduce you to my friend Sarah, who is also a Phi Theta Kappa member, and tell her about her story.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie. About 11 months ago, I took one of the hardest and most important tests of my entire life. This test that some of you may have to take was the HESI, and it is the test that you need to take in order to get into nursing school. So let me back up just a few months. In early July of that year, I was in a car accident on my way to work. Now, it wasn't a major car accident, but I did suffer from severe whiplash. I thought whiplash is not a big deal, I'll get through it. Well, the pain was so bad that I had to go to the urgent care center. I went there and they took some x-rays and they told me that I had scoliosis. Now, it wasn't major, it wasn't too bad, but where my neck should have been slightly curved, it was actually rigid and straight. And this was complicating my whiplash and putting me in a lot of pain. So they gave me some tramadol and some muscle relaxers and they sent me on my way. So it took me a while to work through and get through my pain. Any little thing that I did would aggravate it and I would be in a lot more pain, and it was a struggle for me to work past my pain. But I finally did it, and I finally got on the right track and was coping well. But then test day was approaching, and the pain came back, and it was so much worse than it had ever been before. I couldn't stand. I could hardly walk. And it got to the point where I just broke down crying at work. I called all my coworkers, but no one would come relieve me. I told them what I was going through, but they all had excuses and didn't want to come relieve me. So I ended up shutting down the shop, and I had my parents come pick me up, and they took me to the urgent care again. And this time I was diagnosed with what is called myofascial pain syndrome. What this is basically a recurrence of a previous injury. So what I was experiencing was my car accident injuries all over again, this time just worse. And it was all brought about and triggered by stress. My stress and worry about taking this huge exam for nursing school, it's huge, was just terrifying me, and I couldn't cope with the stress, and I was in a lot of pain. So the doctors gave me some hydrocodone and some muscle relaxers. Let me tell you, both of those medications will make you drowsy, and together they will definitely put you to sleep. So when I went into test day, I was very tired and also still in a lot of pain. But, I'm a good test taker. I thought I can do this. So I went in there and I took the test. Well, there are 8 sections on the HESI. 6 of them I passed with flying colors, and you need a 75 on each section to pass. On the other 2 sections, one of them I scored a 72 and the other a 73. 5 cumulative points away from passing. I was completely devastated. All the pain I went through, everything I pushed through, and I failed. So I signed up to take the test again, this time in December, and I was able to cope with my pain and work on my stress issues. So by the time when test day came around, I was feeling pretty good. I'd studied extra, and I thought, I've already taken this once. If I could score that close while being in an incredible amount of pain, I got this. But maybe it was this way of thinking that was my downfall. Because on those 2 sections that I hadn't passed the first time, one of them I barely passed, and the other I did even worse. I felt like a complete failure. I was mortified. I didn't know what to do. I've taken it twice. What do I do? Now, the school that I was trying to get into, that I had revolved all of my prerequisites around, will only allow you to take this test twice. Not twice in a semester, and not twice a year, but twice in a lifetime, which meant that I could never go to this school ever. Fortunately, there are 2 tests that you can take to get into nursing school. One of them is the HESI, and the other is the TEAS. Now, some schools will accept the HESI, and others will accept the TEAS. So what I had to do, since I couldn't pass the HESIs, I had to find a school that would accept the TEAS. So I spent a lot of time looking for a new school because I really, really wanted to be a nurse. I did not want to give up on that. I was going to find my way to become a nurse. So I found a school that would accept the T's, and I started studying for it and studying for it. And this whole past summer, I studied just as much as I could. I took my textbook to work with me, and I would study behind my register when I didn't have any customers. And I'm losing my train of thought.
You're doing good, you're doing good.
So over the whole summer, I studied as much as I could. I brought my textbook with me to work, and I would study behind the register when I didn't have any customers. I studied day and night, right before I went to sleep, and when I got up in the morning, and in between activities. I was also working 3 jobs. I was studying in between all of my jobs, and I had a really full plate, but I was not going to let myself fail again. This was my last shot to get into nursing school, and I was not going to fail this time. So a couple months before I took my test, I was at work at 6 o'clock in the morning when I got a phone call from the hospital where my grandfather was, and the doctors were saying, "Come now." Well, I did make it in time. And this was one of those situations where I knew my grandfather was sick. I knew that he was in the hospital. I knew he wasn't doing well. I knew he just had surgery. And yet I kept saying, "I'm too busy. I'm working. I don't want to go." And I made all these excuses, and I never went to go see him just because he wasn't my favorite person in the world. So those next few weeks, I dealt with an incredible amount of guilt. I felt like a horrible person, a horrible granddaughter, and I didn't know how to cope with that. And so all of my studying got put off for about 2 or 3 weeks. By the time I was finally able to come to terms with myself and realize that my grandfather knew that I loved him, it was okay. By the time I was finally able to come to terms with myself, I'd lost 2-3 weeks. And by the time I came back to studying, I didn't know where I was. It sounds silly, but once you lose your momentum, it's hard to get back on track, and it is hard to get back to where you were. I had to tell myself, I'm just going to pick up the book and I'm just going to start reading. So I took a bunch of practice tests. I took them over and over and over, and again I was taking my textbook to work, and I studied there, and I would study flashcards on my iPod, and I did everything I possibly could to study. Well, I took the T's last month, and on this test, you need a 64 cut. On this test, you need a 64 or higher to pass. But to be competitive, your scores need to be in the upper 80s, low 90s. So it was a little daunting, but I went in and took the test. And not only did I pass, but I scored an 89%. I scored in the 98th percentile in the nation and the 99th percentile in my program. And if it had not have been for my past failures, I would not be as confident and as strong as I am today. And I would like to share with you all that I will be starting nursing school next semester. And now that you've heard my story, I would like to pass it over to my friend An.
How many of you have been told that you were not able to achieve something? And those words really hurt when it comes from a relative, a good friend, or even anybody. So in the 8th grade, I was failing the 8th grade, as sad as it was. So my counselor intervened and told me that I would be not able to make it to college. Those words actually hurt. But look at me now, I'm in college. Prove it wrong. But as a little story, I grew up in San Jose, California. which is in the Bay Area. As you know, in the Bay Area, there's a good side and there's a bad side. Unfortunately, I live on the bad side. My house got robbed 2 times. You know, there's gangsters, drug addicts, people who even made drugs. I remember I was walking out of school one day. One of the students got point blank, got shot on campus because he messed with the wrong people. So, you know, I grew up in that environment. I made bad friends, I made bad decisions. So, you know, growing up, when I reached the age of 16, I thought to myself, why should I continue this lifestyle? How will this actually benefit me in life? You know, breaking the laws and running away from the police officers and fearing the law. So I made a change. As you know, I had to make another way. So I was thinking, oh, what should I do? Because, you know, I affiliated myself with bad people. So I was like, you know what? Let's make good friends. So I made good friends that actually studied and actually did their homework. It was a good change. But the bad part was my bad friends knew what I was doing. So they intervened and then just went to a complete mess. So I had to make another way. It was so annoying. So actually, I moved from California to Texas, and that's a big change. So right now, living with my grandparents and then going to school. I went to Clinton High School. It was a really big change because number 1, it was huge. Number 2, there was a lot of white people. And number 3, I grew up in an environment that was just horrible, so I had to try and fit in. So I had to make another way, which was pretty scary because I'm a shy person. So I was thinking, let's go make intelligent friends. You know, those people with giant textbooks and just intellectual words, you know, I don't understand. I still try to work with them. But yeah, so, you know, as you finish high school, you apply for colleges. So I applied for HBU, St. Thomas, any local universities within Houston. But what really hurt was, as each letter came back, it said rejected, 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 another rejection. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, that really hurts. I was thinking, why should I let my counselor dictate my life? Why should I let my counselor say that I will not be able to go to college? So I had to make another way. So I looked around, I was like, you know what? I'm a child Lone Star. And Lone Star has been a big opportunity for me because now I'm in a nursing program and also I'm in Phi Theta Kappa. Just a little bit about Phi Theta Kappa is that, so we're an international honor society for 2-year colleges. So what we can provide for you guys as Phi Theta Kappa is scholarship, fellowship, service, and leadership.
For those of you who are interested in Phi Theta Kappa and would like to know more, I'd like to invite you to visit our website. It's www.ptktomball.org. And I'd also like to invite you to check out our Facebook page and our Twitter page.
And if you happen to see us walking through the halls, if you are actually going to campus at Tomball, please stop and say hello to us. And if you have any questions, take the opportunity to ask us. We would love to help you. Also, you can come by and check out our bulletin board in South 256, and it'll...
7.
Oh.
7 is close enough.
Okay.
257.
Oh, 257. The bulletin board, and see our list of upcoming events.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why am I